Hey, small groups, Pastor Jeff here. This week, we're going to be looking at the theme of God's provision. And I'm really excited to share this lesson. I've got 3 points and then some questions for us to talk about in our groups. We're going to be in the book of Exodus. In fact, we're going to be looking at several chapters of the book of Exodus. We're going to be looking for our theme here from chapter 16 through chapter 28. So it's quite a high-level journey, if you will. But I want to share some thoughts with you here that I think are essential for us to grasp on the idea of God's provision. And the first is this: God doesn't just rescue his people, he sustains them. And we see this with the Lord after leading Israel out of slavery. God didn't leave them to figure out things on their own. And I don't know about you, but I'm so encouraged by that the Lord doesn't call us to do something and then go, okay, you've started that journey, I'm going to leave and go a different direction. But he walks with us. And so what we see for the Israelites is that God provides not only food, but also guidance and protection and a way to live in his presence. And, we can see some correlations for us as well. These chapters show us that provision isn't just about what God gives to us or to others, but it's about who he is. He is a providing God. He is a leading God. He's faithful to provide, and not only to provide, but to meet physical, spiritual, and relational needs along the way. So let's dive into that a little bit deeper. Here's the first thought for today. God provides daily what we need, not always what we want. I don't know if you're like me with that, but I wish I could just submit my list of wants and that God would just make those things show up on my doorstep and in my life. And it doesn't work that way, does it? Oftentimes, God will provide something that we need more than something that we want. We see this in Exodus chapter 16 and chapter 17. If you want to look at those chapters together, when the Israelites left Egypt, they faced this great hunger and thirst. It was almost immediately. I mean, think about when you're going to be hungry at the next moment right after you're watching this video. It won't be long. It also doesn't take us, nor did it take them, very long to move to a place of grumbling, of complaining, and they were fearful and they doubted. God, you've called us to do this, but are you going to provide? Are you going to give us food and drink along the way? Well, God didn't just call them to do something and then abandon them. No, he didn't. God responded with provision. And you see in these chapters that it was manna from heaven. It was the daily bread that fell from the sky. It was quail for meat, and it was water from the rock. God knew exactly what the Israelites needed, and he met them with that. Now, they may have been concerned or confused about where this provision was going to come from, but it came from God. And I find great encouragement with that. As we go through this journey of the One Initiative together, God is meeting us and he is providing for us. And it may not come in exact ways that we would imagine in your life and in mine. I mean, this is a trust walk together, but God provides for us. God's provision is daily, isn't it? It's daily, and that's what we see from these chapters in Exodus. It's not stored up, but it's a daily provision. And what we see from the Israelites is that this daily provision, it teaches them that there's dependence, not independence. We must depend on the Lord for his provision. God told them not to hoard this manna, that they had to trust him every single day. And I would encourage you today that the Lord is calling you to trust him every single day with what you're facing today in this very moment, what you're facing next week, and even over the next year together as we continue to journey into the purpose that God has for us together as a church. It's exciting, but there's also these moments of, okay, Lord, we completely depend on you. I don't know about you, but I don't want to take a step without a full dependence upon the Lord. And he is faithful. He will provide for us. Here's the second thought. God provides direction through his presence. It's his presence. In Exodus chapter 19 through 24, this is where we pull this key thought from. God didn't just feed his people. No, he guided them. He guided them on the journey. He led them in several different ways. There was a pillar of cloud by day. There was a pillar of fire by night. The third way is his word through Moses. And then the law that was given at Mount Sinai. So the Lord provides and he led them. He didn't just feed his people, but he guided his people. Provision, it isn't just about meeting needs, whether if they're wants or needs. It's not just about the Lord meeting these needs. It's about him giving direction. And we can take courage. We can take heart in that. We can find encouragement. Courage can be put in us. We can literally be encouraged in this idea because the direction that God gives is this, that God's guidance is one of the greatest forms of provision. So I want you to think about your life. Where do you need God's guidance? We'll talk about that in our groups in just a moment, but think about that right now. Where do you need God's guidance? Without direction, even abundance can become confusion. And God gave them these boundaries, not to restrict them, but to help them flourish into the purpose that he had for them. Here's the third thought today. God provides a way to dwell with him. We see this from Exodus 25 through 28 in these chapters. And perhaps the most beautiful provision of all is that God provided a way to live among his people. So he didn't just provide a direction and said, go walk in it. He provided food for the journey. He provided his presence and a way for him to live among the people and the people to live among him. The Lord gives these detailed instructions for the tabernacle, for the furnishings, and for the priestly garments. And you can get kind of lost in some of those things, if we're honest, as you're looking through Exodus 25 and through 28, these chapters. But here's the key thought. This was not about building a fancy tent. It was about establishing the purposes of God. It was about access. It was about making space for people to be able to enter into the presence of God. And as I think about what we're doing here together as a congregation, as a church, it's not about building a fancy building. It's not. It's about people. It's about access. It's about people all over our city and beyond being able to encounter the presence of God because of what goes on here. And God says, let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in their midst. And the ultimate goal of provision is not comfort. It's not. God doesn't provide so we, both individually and as a church body, can be comfortable. It's about communion. God provides for us so we can commune with him. And I believe that everybody ought to be invited into that. There ought to be a space for all of us to commune with God and to commune with one another. And that's exactly what we see from Exodus and from the Lord's provision. The book of Exodus in chapters 16 through 28 provide quite a bit of information about the Lord's provision. It's a complete picture of his provision. He meets these physical needs. He provides direction for living. And third, he makes a way for relationship. Last thought is this. God's provision is not merely about survival. It's about walking with him in the purpose, in the destiny, in the place that he has called. And we see this in the lives of the Israelites throughout the book of Exodus, and we see it exactly played out in what God is doing through Union Chapel. Friends, it's an exciting time, and I want to encourage you to cling to the Lord, to draw near to him, and to know that as we walk, it's a trust journey with Jesus. We're with you. We're praying for you. Reach out to our staff, to your small group. It's a great time to be serving and working alongside one another in the place that we call Union Chapel. God bless you as you talk about some of these discussion questions with your friends in your circle. Have a great day.